So we'll just wait a couple of seconds, see if anybody can guarantee.
Yeah, I'm in the group now.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. What time is it, Chris, where you are?
It's 9 o'clock in the morning.
Hello there and welcome to WP Builds.
No, not that. Don't put that on. I heard that in my ears. Let me refresh the Facebook group. Yeah, apparently it's normally like 40 seconds or something, isn't it?
I'm trying to find you on YouTube. It says you're live.
If you just go to wpbuilds.com/YouTube, that should do it. And that is, in fact, what you just heard Vito playing. Yeah, it's working. It's working. We're all go. Cool. We're all go. That's great. I'm going to make that go away.
What's up?
Let's go for it. Let's go for it. Hello. This is I think the 4th time we've done this. Number 4 of the WP Builds live news thing. And we've got 3 people on the line today. I'm Nathan Wrigley, by the way, from WP Builds. And on my right at least anyway, is Paul Lacey. Hello, Paul. Do you want to tell us who you are?
Yeah, sure. So Paul Lacey here. I'm from the Dicky Bird studio, and I'm going to read out my UVP this week, which is we designed goal-focused websites to convert your visitors into customers, subscribers, followers, and fans.
I like it. Yeah. Is that what you did last week?
No, I just wrote it out just now because I don't know it off the top of my head. That's what I was messing around if didn't look like I was paying any attention.
No, that was good. Oh, I'm glad that you've got that though, because I think we all felt a bit in the shadow of Chris Badgett with his blisteringly good elevator pitch. Yeah, and right, so underneath me, on my screen anyway, is Vito Peleg. Hello, Vito. Introduce yourself if you wish.
Yes, so I'm Vito. I'm the founder of WP Feedback, which is a WordPress plugin that helps WordPress pros communicate with their clients. It's basically like having your client sitting next to you pointing at the screen, just without the human contact.
Are we live on that yet? Are we still beta, or is it all pushed live?
It's still beta. We're running beta at the moment, and we're actually closing the early access group tomorrow. So there's just today and tomorrow to apply. Really surprisingly, we have a little more than 1,000 people that already signed up in the past 5 weeks.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm really excited. In 8 days, I'm going to open for the early access group and to this first 1,000, and then we'll see.
Well, congratulations for getting this far. I'm sure that many people have failed to get this far when thinking I could put out a plugin and live the dream. And look what I'm wearing. I've got a Lifter LMS t-shirt on in honor of the Right Honourable Chris Badgett. How you doing, Chris?
Great. Thanks for having me, Nathan. I just got back from a week offline in the Grand Canyon. This is the very first thing I'm doing on the internet, so it's good to be back.
I actually saw your pictures. I saw pictures of you in the Grand Canyon. Was it with your father?
It was with my 77-year-old father, yes.
Nice. Nice. Did you relax, recharge? Is that was it relaxing? Was it energetic, or?
It was a little bit of everything. We rode mules down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and the trail is very steep and treacherous. So that part was fun, but not relaxing.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a great trip.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm really thrilled that you've made the effort to come and speak to us first. Thank you. I'm yet to work out how to best manage these things. I've got 2 screens in my setup, and they sit side by side, and so I end up kind of looking in the wrong direction. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask if you want to follow along with us. We put out a WordPress weekly news on a Monday morning about 3 or 4 hours ago. And if you go to wpbuilds.com, on the top in the navigation is an archive menu. And if you click News Archive, then the first one, which is WP Builds newsletter number 63. That's what we're sort of chatting about today. So rather than raising the hand and all that awkward stuff, we're just going to interrupt each other if we think we've got something to say. And if not, I'll just keep pressing on regardless. So WP Tavern today, or rather last week, was talking about Gutenberg 5.7. We've got Gutenberg 5.7. To be honest with you, this kind of went over my head a little bit because I'm not using any of these features. So we've got the group block, which in the past was a bit tricky to use, allegedly. Not that I've used it particularly. Whereas now they've made adaptations. So the appender, which is the little plus icon, which appears when you've got an empty block, basically, now appears, and it didn't before. They've also probably, of use to all of us at some point, they've also enabled width options if you've got columns. So if you've got 3 columns next to each other, previously it was pretty hard to adjust the width. It's still not as good as page builders. You can't drag and drop, if you like, the width, but they're going to add that in the future. Now you use this little percentage slider. And this is nice. I suppose if you're a Gutenberg user, you can now drag images from the Finder or Windows Explorer straight into the image blocks and then swap them out really easily. So there we go, Elementor. Gutenberg. Anybody want to comment on that? Anybody actually using it yet?
I use Gutenberg a lot.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
Just seeing this with the column widths and the drag and drop images, it's good because they're kind of anticipating. Like when I started using the columns, I was like, oh, well, this is nothing like Beaver Builder. I need to be able to, control my widths. But I think we're going to see Gutenberg catch up faster and faster with the page builder. So right now we're just doing table stakes, like things that are just kind of obvious, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah. It still feels a little bit clunky with the width and things being done at the side as opposed to doing it live. But that, I suppose, is a testament to how far page builders went.
Is there a plan to make this like a front end tool?
I don't know. Good question. I mean, I know it's going to become the plan for it is pretty extensive, and it's going to become, it's going to do headers and footers, and translations are going to be included in the core version. So I don't know. I mean, it's as front end as we can get, I suppose. But no, I'm not sure. Okay, I'll press on in that case. The second item was over at WP Tavern again. By the way, if you don't check out WP Tavern each week, you're missing out a lot because it is, I think, utterly fabulous. The Site Health Tool Manager. So if you've updated to 5.2, which I hope you have, WordPress Core 5.2. Oh, something just came really loudly in my ears then. This Site Health Tool has been added, which basically does a bunch of tests automatically, runs it against your install of WordPress. So, for example, it'll check PHP version, whether plugins or themes are out of date. And it'll do all that without you having to lift a finger, and then it'll report back to you. Well, I think a few people have said, maybe this isn't so good if we've got a bunch of clients and it reports something that we actually don't want them to see for a legitimate reason. I can't really think of a really legitimate reason, but so let's say, for example, that you didn't want to tell them. Oh, go on, Vito.
So first of all, there is this kind of like a percentage bar in there. And a lot of the things that are within this percentage bar are not really fixable, So as part of building a website, you're ruining the website. You're ruining the perfect state, the 100%. So showing to the client that you're at 75% or 73% or even 80-something might freak them out, even though it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's one thing to kind of reduce this. But we actually already leaned into it. With the plugin, we created a function just this week to have the option to pull this information when they're requesting support from us. So we know exactly what kind of state the website is, what are the active plugins. We don't need to ask what's the theme and all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul, you've seen that on the beta, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really cool to how you're using that information. I mean, the one thing I heard was I heard a lot of people had problem with the site health thing and that it was forcing everybody to have the default WordPress theme installed. I mean, not activated, but installed.
Yeah,
that's probably just a glitch or something. But being able to turn off things like that are a bit irritating. It sounds cool, but yeah, definitely using that site health stuff in the right way is brilliant.
Well, so this article that I'm referring to, there's a plugin by a guy called William Earnhardt. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. And he's basically got a tick box plugin where you say, okay, site health stop reporting this. Actually, it might be the opposite. Tick it to unreport it. I don't know. So, for example, you could say, stop reporting the HTTPS status. Stop reporting whether they're on a updated version of PHP. Stop reporting whether the REST API is available. That kind of thing. And I think this is really cool. I mean, it's not really too much of a concern to me because most of my clients will. They've kind of learned not to panic and just ignore stuff like that largely. And so it's not really of an issue, but nevertheless, I can see it. Yeah, your point, Vito, about the percentage thing, if it's running at 78%, the clients are going to think, well, that's 22% of, it's not optimized. My website's no good. And of course it isn't that. Fair enough. Anything else?
That, every time that WordPress are releasing a new feature at the moment, someone releases a plugin to cancel it out.
yeah, it's a really good point and completely and utterly true.
It's change, though, isn't it? It's change.
People don't like change. So, that's the point.
Yeah.
We are going through a big change in WordPress, so it's kind of expected and it's all part of the process, I think.
I think it's quite nice though that they launch with something and it just happens and then people strip it back. In this case, at least, it's not people adding things in; it's kind of taking things away in a sense. And it's a great idea. I can totally see the point of it. Okay, so let's move on. The next few bits I decided were all to do with community. Called them community, and the first one is really just interesting for the sake of being interesting. Speaks to those of us who like to go the extra mile. Because that was terrible. Marcel,
dad jokes from before.
Sorry, we had a conversation before we started about me being in the dad humor way of things. Marcel Bootsman. No, not quite as funny. Okay, that's his real name. He began walking all the way to WordCamp Europe yesterday. He started. I'm going to WordCamp Europe. I think Vito's going. Chris, are you going?
I'm not going to Europe. I wish I was, but I think this is awesome. I think it's really cool that especially for people who work online and do online stuff, to get out, and it's just kind of getting out from behind the computer, but coming into your techie community at a conference. I think it's wonderful what Marcel's doing. I think more people, it'd be fun to do stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, he's walking a total of 465 miles. So he began yesterday. He's probably clocked, 20 or so by now. And he's raising money you can go to Donate WC. I'm not entirely sure. If anybody can help me out, that'd be good. I'm not entirely sure what the exact charity is. But he's raising money and he's walking. And it feels to me like WordCamp Europe is still quite a long way away. So he's doing it for it's a healthy long walk. And there was an image I saw on this website of exactly where he started. He started basically on the coast near The Hague, and he's going all the way to Berlin. So good for you, Marcel. Absolute full-on congratulations. I'm going to probably get a plane and a taxi. Yeah. And then, I might walk from the taxi to the hotel, but that'll be about it.
I'll sponsor you.
Yeah.
Give me $5.
Thank you. I'll donate it to the same.
To be fair, if I'd sponsored you to walk home from WordCamp London back to the hotel, you might not have completed the journey.
Be quiet. Some things have to remain secret. No, that's good. Yeah. We ended up eating kebabs, didn't we, Paul? It was quite an interesting experience. Okay, then let's move on quickly. The next one, I not really of interest to me, but maybe of interest to people who are in the hosting space. There's a thing called Host Camp, which I didn't really know about, and it's coincidentally, maybe it's not a coincidence, maybe it's on purpose. It runs in the days exactly before WordCamp Europe, and basically it's an invite-only little event for those people who are like in the hosting space. And now I would have thought that would have been a really competitive thing, but the idea is that they get together and kind of knock their heads together and come up with ways to move WordPress hosting in particular forward. I was quite surprised to learn of this, because I thought that these guys would be, whilst not at each other's necks and they're all very friendly at WordCamps, it felt like an industry where they would keep that stuff to themselves and very private, because they're always touting how good they are compared to everybody else. So that's quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's because of a really competitive market, the hosting market, especially in the past couple of years with WordPress.
Yeah.
So yeah, just seeing people collaborate is always cool and always unexpected. But I guess only in the WordPress community things like that can happen.
Yeah, it looks like a nice venue they've got as well. But the fact that it runs on, straight into WordCamp, maybe they're doing it all in one big lump so they can buy one set of plane tickets. And, just
I'd like to see all the. I'm a bit worried about all the fights at the after party, though. It's like with hosting. It's like, who's got the best hosting? It all gets a bit heated, doesn't it? And
what I was wondering was if they had like an area where you could chill out, where all the advertisers are. Who's going to advertise? Because all the advertisers are.
Yeah, what do you sell to a company that does hosting?
Because when you go to a WordCamp, that represents about 60% of the advertising, doesn't it? Is all the hosting companies.
Yeah,
I guess
you'd have to advertise.
And support desk stuff.
Yeah, Vito, I see an opportunity.
You could advertise companies available to be bought, because that's what hosting companies do at the moment. And they're just, when you go to a WordCamp or something, the biggest sponsors are always the hosting companies. So they've obviously got more money than everyone else.
Yeah.
Well, they've got monthly revenue going, so that's a big part of that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. There's some good facilitators there, though. There's some big names, and I'm looking at the website at the moment, so looks pretty good.
It doesn't strike me as the kind of place you'd go if you had a passing interest in hosting. If you enjoy host. I think it's as if you really are an industry.
You're in the industry leader in hosting.
Yeah, you are totally into hosting.
Yeah.
What's another thing?
There's a thing about not competition, but collaboration. And I think the hosting experience, WordPress managed hosting has gotten better, like WP Engine, Kinsta, and a lot of the other ones out there, but there's still so much room to improve. I see a lot of people, their first time in WordPress, first time having to deal with hosting and buy a domain name. And just getting started for the average user, there's so many friction points that can still need to go away. So I'm excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah. It's a never-ending topic, the whole hosting topic. I guess it'll never go away so long as we've got websites. There's always going to be some tiny thing to be squeezed out, some little leverage that you think you've got over your competitors. By the way, Chris, Matt Davis in the comments on Facebook is asking to know if you have shares in Post-it notes. That's a nice.
Not yet.
No.
I'm actually designing a course. That's what's behind me, is just content that's becoming organized.
Next week, I'm gonna have the exact same thing as you behind me, only it'll be utterly meaningless. I'm just gonna stick them on.
Just random shopping list.
Claim that I'm doing something of great importance and worth. Speaking of great importance and worth, Matt Mullenweg. There you go. This is intriguing. I mean, goodness knows, where does somebody like him find time to do this? Because I know what it takes to put a podcast out, and I've listened to it, and it's really good. He started a new podcast on distributed working. Now, I'm a freelance. I don't employ anybody, but I guess in the WordPress space, especially, distributed working is all the thing. It's called distributed.blog, and this week he had kind of 2 episodes out at once. The first episode was about 10 minutes, and it was just him saying, I'm doing this blog about distributed working. And then the second one was with the CEO, I'm going to say, of Upwork, which is like a platform for finding work. And it was genuinely interesting. I kind of got sucked into his questions. I got sucked into his way of thinking, and I don't know. His patter I really like. I just think he's quite a really clever guy with a nice slow delivery, and the guy that he was talking to was really intelligent as well. But anyway, there you go. That's what you do if you're the CEO of Automatic. You make a podcast about distributed working. Do you guys employ anybody that's nowhere near?
Yes, for sure. Okay. A bunch.
Yeah.
We're all in the UK, but we're almost never in the same office together.
Yeah.
We're all actually fairly local as well. Actually, apart from Peter, who's now half the time in London, half the time about 2 miles away from here.
Okay.
So we're pretty distributed. But I'm definitely going to listen to that, because, like you said, I like the way he speaks, and even Gutenberg Gutenberg drama aside, I always enjoy listening to the stuff that Matt Mullenweger's got to say.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
There's also a great book that somebody who worked at Automatic wrote. I can't remember his name. It was a while ago, called A Year Without Pants, which talks about distributed work as well, that I highly recommend. It's a really great book.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of thing, it's a slow burn, isn't it? They're not trying to answer all your questions in one concise volume, but it's just people. And I'm guessing he's going for like the industry bigwigs, people who've got, many thousands of employees. And
that's actually interesting, because scaling up a remote team, that's a challenge, and just speaking into what they've done, with WordPress, which is a huge organization with a distributed team, could be really interesting. I heard that it's launching, but I didn't know that it was already on. And having someone of this profile, of this level profile, being the CEO of such a huge company, he will have access to talent that we will that we won't have.
Yeah, it struck me. That was exactly my thought, was that if you've got that heritage, I would imagine very few doors are shut to him. Yeah. So he could probably get, real high caliber people on. It's just interesting, if that's your bag, go and take a look. Okay, so the next one was on WP Tavern, and this is sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at Host Camp again. Sorry about that. There was an article on Web Dev Studios. I'm not going to dwell on it, but it was all about speaking at your first WordCamp. I thought it was quite worth including, because I know that quite a few people in our audience are speaking at various bits and pieces this year, and it was just a nice little article about how to get that speech prepared, and a stress-busting, anxiety-relieving post to get you started. Anyone signed up for Word Sesh 2019? Because that's coming around.
I did, actually. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see how this is gonna go.
Yeah,
I'm probably not gonna dedicate like full-on days for it, like you would when you're going to to a proper conference. But it's just gonna be playing in the background, I imagine, while I work, during the day.
I think I'm right in saying that Carl Van Duzen, he was on this a few weeks ago, and he's the admin bar, the Facebook group and the website. I think he's got a talk. I do not know what it's about, but I do like the idea of having it on in the background, like you said, just sort of getting on with other things. But this article, which is on tommcfarlane.com, is all about the fact that you can kind of treat it a bit like a normal conference, in that, there's an agenda and there's speakers, and they've tried to incorporate a bit of a hallway track. They've got the capability for you to sort of like go out and break out and have conversations. I don't know how much that'll all happen. And there's got a few competitions to win some swag as well. And after all, that's why we go to WordCamps, is to walk away with stickers, walk away with mugs, plastic mugs, and yeah, that's right, the stickers. So there you go. If nothing else, to support Kyle Van Duzen, go and sign up. WordPress translations. Now, this subject completely escapes me, and it's really interesting if you look at the map on this website, because their WordPress translation day 4, it says on the WP Tavern website, successfully hosts 77 local events in 35 countries. And it's really interesting where they all are. So I would have thought that, looking at this map, I would have thought to myself, well, it'll be the USA, North America, and Europe dominating. But not anywhere near. It's dominated by India. And, well, what looks like India, it could possibly be going towards Bangladesh and Europe. And then, of course, it just struck me, well, of course, that makes perfect sense. Everybody mostly in the United States and Canada, I suppose, is talking from the same copy. But anyway, nice to see loads and loads of people adding. I think they added 183 new people. And I guess, Chris in particular, with a plugin, this stuff really matters. You've really got to get the translation stuff right.
It really does. And we've got our plugin set up to make it easy for people to translate. And anytime we get a request for, I need to be able to translate this string, we immediately add it. And what's amazing to me is just the people that come out of the woodwork to, put it into German, to put it into Farsi, to put it into all different languages. it's fascinating. And then learning how it all works, it really shows the power of open source. We were talking about the hosting conference and collaboration. When it comes to languages and websites viewable around the world, just the people that get into the translation as their way of contribution is really amazing. And it's something I'm personally really grateful for.
Do you ever reach out to a particular kind of like paid service and hand over some dollars in order to get something to expedite it? Or do you always rely on the community that you've got?
We've never paid for it, but we do try to really reward people that contribute in that way in different ways and hook them up. And, you know, if somebody's really invested a lot in translation, we'll bend over backwards to do things for them or help them in whatever way. So.
Okay, that's great.
Nice.
Yeah, and obviously WordPress, you know, it's everywhere, so it's important that the actual core is translated, and you know, it's always being updated. So that's important work.
You can
Next
see on
one.
the photos on the blog post about it. There's the guys from the Jupiter X seem to be highly involved in the Istanbul day. So you know they changed their theme to full GPL, didn't they? About 6 months ago or something.
Okay, that rings
the guys who are
yeah.
next to it, WordCamp,
Yep.
from the Jupiter X theme. So it seems like they're really getting involved in all the community stuff now.
Yep. And there was an interesting bit right at the bottom of the article about a bunch of guys in Bhutan. I don't know a lot about the politics of Bhutan, but I think Bhutan's quite a difficult and closed off place to get to. So it's quite interesting that there's a bunch of people contributing to an open source project. Absolutely, 26, I think, was the number of people in Bhutan doing that. Look, they're fabulous. Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing. Okay, let me find my screen again. Now, Beaver Builder users, I suppose rejoice is a good word for this, because it's been quite difficult. Maybe going back, I feel like Paul can probably correct me on the numbers here, but it feels like 3 years ago, maybe 4. Let's say 3. We had a forum, and it kind of it went away, and it took away with it quite a lot of stuff. You know, the knowledge kind of got closed down, if you like, and then it was a question of talking to your friends and your colleagues and going into Facebook, and then I think they tried Slack for a while and tried various other things, but now they've come back with a new forum, and I'm liking it. What do you think, Paul?
I've not logged in, and I knew the old forum was there, but I don't think I ever engaged in it. Apparently, it was quite a nice community in that forum as well.
Yeah,
from what I heard.
Yeah, it really was, and you got really good answers. And I think the difficult thing for people who've got a plugin as wildly popular as that is just like archiving the answers. So if you end up using support, like let's say you use a Facebook group as support, or a Slack channel, that stuff just sort of disappears over time, and you can't resurface the exact same. Whereas this solves that problem. I don't know what the software is, but it looks really nice. I'm wondering if they tried Stack Overflow, didn't they? And that didn't work. They tried a
popular forum software called IP Board. I'm not sure if this is it, but it might be.
Yeah, I know that there's a whole bunch, but yeah, I mean, just really nice. So basically, if you're a Beaver Builder user, rather than sort of maybe going into a whole different bunch of channels, maybe your first bet from now on is to go to community.wpbeaverbuilder.com, and then it's organized, you know, as you'd expect in a forum: announcements, discussion, Beaver Builder theme, template, Beaver Builder themes, and so on and so forth. And you figure it out for yourself. But for me, I think this still represents the best way to track down information is a forum. I know it's old and it's tired, but it just works. So I'm delighted.
I think one of the challenging things about a forum is, and why support tickets are often handled in private, is because sometimes people get upset, or sometimes it appears as though your thing's broken or something, but it's not really. It's challenging to be open like this, but like you said, the community aspect of people helping each other is invaluable, and the curation so that somebody can self-serve and find their answer without having to submit a ticket is really good.
Yeah, I think also over time, when, you know, over the last 8 or 9 years, Facebook has just become like the default ground for everything and everybody, because you're always logged in. And trying to build up your own community elsewhere is really hard. And and you've got to curate it, you've got to modify the software, keep the software up to date, and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, just basically, it's a bit of news. Go and check it out.
All the posts from before are there. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I think that could be a cool option for feature on Facebook. Because they're pushing towards these groups in the upcoming year, just having like a frequently asked questions section that when people type in the text, it's just going to give them the answer based on these pre-made articles. I think it's going to be super easy for them to set up something like this, and be helpful for people managing large communities and doing support. I'm seeing like even on the Elemental group where they have like 40,000 people over there. People get really frustrated when they don't get replies straight away, and I think that could be a cool thing. So, Paul, it's on you to talk to Zuckerberg, yeah?
Paul, can I request that you don't talk to Zuckerberg, because I don't want Facebook's flag being planted on any more terrain. I think Facebook needs to stay just no bigger than it is right now. Just Vito. I don't know if anybody else's screen for Vito is frozen, but I'm not seeing Vito moving.
No?
So
No,
I can hear you.
Perfect.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Don't do anything if it's working.
Yeah.
Don't
They've put the entire forum up as well. It's going back years as well.
Yes.
It's not like they've just relaunched it.
I've
literally
forgotten that.
the whole lot's there, so you can check back loads of historical stuff if you want.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. That's great, because I had completely forgotten all about that, and that's really, really useful to know. Right. Okay. The next one then, I suppose. There was a whole bunch of security news, and I decided last week that we weren't going to just troll through what all of this meant, but I will very quickly say that these things appear to have happened last week. On the Securi blog, a cross-site scripting vulnerability in WP Live chat support plugin. So that's the first one. The next one, it was all on Securi, I think, mostly this week. The Give plugin, which I know is widely used to sort of receive donations. There's a stored XSS vulnerability. The next one, again, thanks to Securi, who are really working their socks off this week, the whole bunch of vulnerabilities in the Ultimate Member plugin, and I think involving arbitrary deletion of the WP config file, which basically, means that they can absolutely take over your site by putting a new one in there and starting again, essentially. WordFence have updated this week they've added a bunch of new facilities so that you can do two-factor authentication in a slightly different way. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But anyway, nice if you're a WordFence user. And also on the iThemes website, I didn't know that this was something that they even did. Maybe this was the first time they ever did it, but they've got this security news roundup, so you can just sort of check out all the stuff that happened in the last couple of weeks. So if you go to my post and click on that, you'll get the May roundup, the mid-May roundup, and it's got absolutely loads and loads and loads of the security news that I've been mentioning. So yeah, there you go, worth checking out. Okay, so security, we've moved to one side.
Chris, what do you guys do in terms of making sure the plugin is properly secured?
Oh, we do a lot. I mean, just in terms of testing, we're constantly testing for any kind of security issue. Also, my business partner and CTO, Thomas, is absolutely anal retentive about best practices in security. So, for example, one of the things people complain about a lot is that when people first set up Lifter LMS, we enforce strong passwords so that when their customers or their students buy stuff and create a password, by default, you have to enter a super strong password, and there's a message explaining what's going on. And we got so many complaints about it that we gave people an option to make a medium or weak password, but then it's their choice.
Yeah.
So really, probably the biggest thing is that my business partner and the chief developer of Lifter takes security at a philosophical tenet to what he does. So that's what it's all about.
It's really hard. You've got to know what you're doing and pay somebody to do it for you if you don't know what you're doing, because I think it is very, very difficult, isn't it? I certainly wouldn't know my way around doing all that sort of stuff. So that's great. Dave Toomey, by the way, has chipped in on the Facebook group to say that piece of forum software for Beaver Builder, and he would know, I suppose, is Discourse. He thinks so, and that rings a bell as a platform. So there we go. Nice bit of software. I think there's an open source version, as well as I think they've got a paid tier. Anyway, moving on. Okay, there was an article last week, which talked about, well, it basically compared ATF blocks with Block Lab and Lazy Blocks. All I'm saying about that is if you've got any aspirations to build your own blocks without JavaScript knowledge, go and check that article out. This one might be of interest, especially to Chris, because I'm presuming there's quite a lot of videos going into your product. Cloudflare and WP Engine have joined forces to create a WordPress plugin for Cloudflare Stream. Now, I didn't even know that was a thing, but Cloudflare apparently have an easy to use, affordable, on-demand video streaming platform that runs on Cloudflare's secure global network. Now, everything that I know about Cloudflare is that they're really good. So I'm guessing that if they did video streaming, it would be really good. Any thoughts on this?
There's really what I see it for WordPress is there's three main options. There's Vimeo Pro, there's Wistia, and then you can self-host it with Amazon and go through the rigmarole, which is too technical for a lot of people. This area is ripe for disruption.
Yeah,
and there's plenty of room for new players that can innovate on top of that. So I'm really excited to see where that goes, and if they can make it affordable in addition to easy to use and understandable and simple for the end user, there's just room for improvement there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the idea here is that you could upload stuff to the Cloudflare service, and then people in the WP backend could amend things like the metadata for the video from the plugin. So it wouldn't be go to Vimeo, change it all on Vimeo, and then it gets reflected back wherever it's played. I think the idea is that there's more power. But yeah, you're right. Wistia and Vimeo, they're the only two that I really know about. And I always say, if you can afford it, get Wistia, simply because my understanding is that the ability to lock content down, and obviously if you're running a course,
privacy.
I think, Wistia, don't they have some sort of like handshake or something whereby if you ask for the video, then it sends a unique URL, which then you can't replay 10 minutes later, that kind of thing?
Vimeo Pro and Wistia both have a lot of privacy features where you can do like domain whitelisting and all this stuff to really lock it down.
I remember a few years ago building a website for somebody, and I had that thought that Vimeo Pro was like that, and I discovered, much to my chagrin later, that it just sort of hides things. But as soon as you go if you go in and inspect the HTML, you can rip it all off. Yeah. Whereas I think Wistia serve up a unique one, and I know that Amazon provide this as well. So they serve up a unique time-based URL. So that if you try to then copy that URL and give it to your mate 10 minutes later or whatever, that's expired and it's shelf life. But you can't. Yeah, I don't think you can lock this stuff down forever. But anyway, there you go. Interesting new feature from WP Engine. Elementor talked about making their site accessible. Go and check that link out if you Elementor user. And then Delicious Brains talked about making a Slack app if you want to get WooCommerce notifications. I will not be doing that, but if that's your thing, if you use Slack and you're deeply into WooCommerce, that could be cool. Storefront. Anybody want to talk about Storefront theme? Again, I don't use it because I'm not a WooCommerce person. Okay. Right. Okay. Here's the thing. Anybody know realistically anything about schema? Because I talk about it quite a lot and I don't really know what I'm on about. We want to
heard of it. What is it?
Easiest way to describe an example of schema would be like a recipe website, for instance. So with schema, you can mark up a document, a web page, or a post with the available schema tags or schema variables that you can have in there. So, for instance, how long does it take to cook? How long does it take to prepare? What's the nutritional value? And
Few
that sort of
attributes.
stuff. Yeah, exactly. So if you search for any recipe in Google, you'll see the schema stuff in the search results. So basically, that's what schema does. That's
Is
one
that
of
like
one
the
of the things.
snippet bit that goes to the top in the table kind of thing? Is that what you mean?
It's
Yeah,
also
so
reviews and product data as well. Like it's like not just a title and a meta description. You can have all these other variables like prices or hours of operation or all these other things.
It's got absolutely loads of benefits, hasn't it? You know, if you lay out your stuff and the schema is all marked up intelligently and thoughtfully. But I've never really implemented it beyond the basic use case. But the Yoast SEO plugin version 11.2 have added some more schema enhancements, image improvements. You can now tailor the schema output. I've taken the approach of just simply downloading a schema plugin. In this case, I've downloaded the one from Brainstorm Force and kind of done it that way. I think if memory serves, it's called Schema Pro. But it feels to me like it's another thing which you can tell your clients you're doing in order to enhance their SEO. But so if indeed that is what you're trying to achieve, then anyway, Yoast has got your back. Go and check it out. Yoast,
I thought you guys saying like schemer, because like with the
schema.
English accent, you get the R at the end, like cinema. You know, you go into the cinema.
Schemer.
yeah,
What have we got?
Schema, yes.
Schema.
Now I know what it is.
This one I know that we have a user amongst us. I know that Paul uses Instant IDE. I confess I'm still with a Mac and I use an IDE. I use a Mac bit of software. I use Coda, which I really like. And although it's quite old, I'm stuck with it and I like it. But tell us about this. They've got this update. I mean, you don't have to tell us about the update. Why do you use an online self-hosted IDE over one on your Mac or your PC?
Well, we don't do local development, so we just run a development server and do it all online so that we can all just collaborate. It's just been easier for us, and also I've got a Chromebook. I know you mentioned that in the news, so I don't use Chromebook for my main computer, but it's the one to carry around with me all the time if I'm going anywhere than the office. And but that was the main reason. But then with the previous release of Instant IDE, the one before this, they included a SAS compiler within the plugin. So without having to install all the kind of things that people want to do for SAS CSS development on your computer and figure it all out, which I'd never bothered to figure out, you can use Instant IDE and then you can use SAS with your CSS and make things a lot easier for your development without it being super techy.
Yep.
And probably the best way for me to describe it is to come on a WP Builds contribute thing and just show you. I actually showed Adam Lacey yesterday. He was asking me about it. I showed him yesterday our child theme that is built with SAS and uses Instant IDE, and he thought it was pretty cool. Oh, but so the most recent updates that they've done there is some really cool things for people who already use it. So you've got things just like you can search throughout your live server for the search in files, which normally you'd imagine you could only really do on a local machine, searching through hard drive files. But now they've put a search in there so you can find code in the files, find and replace, stuff like that. So it's really it's gone from strength to strength. The plugin has in the last couple of months. As usual, Eric Ham is ruining the validity of his old products by making his new products better. Just better and better and better, and then which is really good at that. And it's about his products just awesome.
Yeah, I know that you absolutely love them. So you chuck this in the root of your website domain, so you can't use it. You couldn't. So, for example, if I installed it in WP Builds root directory, it would work on WP Builds. I couldn't then use it on dickiebirds.studio.
No. Right. You install the plugin installs Instant IDE on your in your file structure.
Yeah.
So it's not reliant on WordPress to run. You just use WordPress to put it to install it, create a login for it, and then remove the login and uninstall it.
Okay.
So if you do the classic thing that you miss a semicolon and you kill your dev site, you haven't got to then try and FTP in or whatever to try and fix it.
Because it still works. Yeah.
Yeah, WordPress might be broke, but your instant IDE is still working.
Yeah.
So that's one of the nice benefits of it.
It looked like it had some nice sort of feature updates. They've got a live file tree, a find in folder feature, as you've just described, and a complete save state functionality. Looks great. I mean, if I was on a Chrome, do you know what? I am kind of praying for the day where I can be on a Chromebook. The only holdout, like with Instant IDE, I could totally do that. The only holdout I've got is video and audio. I just think something in the browser just doesn't rival, not even close yet to what's capable with a desktop. But anyway, yeah, Cobalt Apps, Eric Ham's product. Go check it out. Looks like a nice update. And if Paul Lacey recommends it, there you go. Breezy has integrated Short Pixel image optimization software straight into their page builder. So basically, if you chuck an image straight into their page builder, it'll throw it over at Short Pixel and they'll throw it back all squashed. So that's quite a nice feature update like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. We'll ignore the thing about cryptocurrency. I'll just say that I did a podcast with David Wormsley this week about getting content from clients or not, as the case may be. Episode number 128. As always, it's nice to chat to David and reveal just how ignorant the pair of us truly are. I think it's important to recognise that we have very little of high quality to share. But
David Worms is like, speak for yourself.
no, he's driving this agenda. He likes to be humble. So, all right, Linux kernel in Windows. It's not something I'm really going to make a great deal of use of, but I can imagine that there's a lot of people out there literally salivating over the thought that we've got a new Microsoft who've shoved a Linux kernel into Windows, which is going to be updated through Windows Update. So I don't think any of us are probably going to want to say anything about that, but it is very cool. I'm right, aren't I? Nobody wants to speak about that. Okay. Right, now this is very important. This is probably the most important thing that we've heard all year, because everybody listen up. 54% of podcast listeners are likely to buy. Oh, just had a pop-up on that blooming website, so now I can't read the headline. There you go. 54% of podcast listeners are likely to buy from brands they hear advertised. Now, okay, so this is a call. No, but that's fascinating. So, Search Engine Journal are basically saying if you're bothering to download a podcast and you're bothering to listen to it, then you are invested in what that people are saying. They also make the really interesting point that I never thought about, is that the location of where they're listening is very often, can't remember the exact numbers, but it's very often a place of kind of like comfort. So they might be sitting on a chair in their house, or they're feeling good and relaxed. And I know, Paul, you were saying that you listen to a podcast when perhaps you're doing gardening or feeding the chickens. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so there's this kind of trust which builds up. And obviously the more time that somebody listens and the more time that they spend with that podcast, the more that relationship builds up over time. And obviously nobody's trying to abuse it, but it is interesting.
I heard an interesting statistic, by the way.
Go.
94% of people, of customers surveyed who were looking to design a goal-focused website to convert your visitors into customers, subscribers, followers, and fans, felt that Dickiebird Studio was a fantastic option. Do you believe that?
That is a... Now, Paul, I didn't quite hear what you said there. Could you say that statistic again?
94% of my parents...
94% of my, so that's like you cut one's like fingernails off or something. No, that's interesting.
There you go. Can you believe
anyway
that?
Brave new world. I utterly do not trust television advertising. I don't. That's really ridiculous and a silly thing for me to have said. What I mean is, I don't kind of have any relationship with the telly, you know, the program that I'm watching. Not really, because I realize that it's about the network and about the television program and the company. Whereas with the podcast, the majority that I listen to, it's pretty clear it's a one guy, one lady operation, and they're just trying to make a little bit of extra on the side. And so I am much more compelled
I think
by that.
You're at number 128 on the WP Builds podcast. And when your audience sees that kind of commitment, not like 5 shows and then you go away, but you've been going and going, adding value. And as long as your sponsors, you're in alignment with them. I mean, you can tell when somebody is just doing a sponsorship for the money, but when it's really a win-win, like you're getting paid, you're making a good recommendation to your audience that's relevant, everybody really wins. And that's kind of the spirit of podcasting, as opposed to TV, where it's more of an interruption of so
you can curate the offers, and you can curate the advertisers in a way that that is very, very targeted to the people that are listening to it. And that is completely different ball games in terms of advertising, for sure. But you know the numbers, Nathan. Are the numbers true?
I don't really know, to be honest, because I mean I simply don't know whether there is that sort of level. But this search engine journal website has been around for a long time, and I read a lot of the stuff, and they do throw a lot of data at you because it's search engines and so on. But I have no reason to disbelieve it. Anyway, this was not a plug for my website, but it is a plug for sort of podcasting in general. You know, you are getting right. Very often the niche is super fine, you know, and so if you are, I don't know, let's say you've done a yo-yo podcast, and you'd be perfect for like yo-yo companies, wouldn't you? Let's be honest. Right. Okay. Moving on swiftly. We haven't got many to go. Google now allows you, Paul Lacey, by the way, you've frozen on my screen. I don't know if you can still hear me or not.
I can see you, and you're moving.
Yeah, okay, great. If you can still hear me, that's fine. Google now lets you buy things from search. Now, this kind of got me a bit left field. I don't really understand how it works, but Google now they've got this shopping cart feature in search. So, and I don't even know if maybe this has hit North America, because everything goes to North America and then we get it a little bit later in the UK or Europe. So you can be browsing on Google's search results pages. You can add to the cart. It will maintain the cart state. So you could come back, I don't know, a month later. But I don't quite understand, like, who are you buying it from? Presumably it's not Google. Anyway, this is fascinating. Google basically taking more money on the internet, presumably in partnership with trusted partners, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's like affiliate marketing. I mean, I noticed maybe 6 months ago when I searched for a flight, and now Google is giving me the flight options, like, and then I get redirected to the airline to buy. So I think this is what entrepreneurship is all about. It's about removing friction. If there's buying intent in a search, and they can go make the distance to the sale closer, they're going to do that, and they're going to figure out a way to get paid to do that. So it's interesting, but I think we need some competition. I think it can't just be Google's winner take all situation. Otherwise, it's more of a monopoly.
Yeah, I was looking for a flight the other day and was really surprised by how good the Google flight search was, in the sense that I was. It felt to me like I was on a company's website, like American Airlines or something. It really felt, except there were the different rival companies all listed out. You know, it took me through all the times, what airports, how much it was going to be. And there was a little bit of distrust there. I didn't quite know whether I was getting the cheapest deal because it was Google and not the airline. Anyway, needless to say, they're getting really good at this stuff and scraping that data from sites. Right, where are we at? Some guy got a sort of cease and desist letter from Adobe because he was not using the most up-to-date version of Photoshop, even though he was paying a monthly subscription. I don't have anything to add to that, but it's interesting. And San Francisco, as is so often the case, leading the way in society, they've decided to ban, this is on the BBC website, they've decided to ban facial recognition software within like the environment. So for example, you know, the transit authority, so I'm guessing things like bus stops, and the turnstiles for the equivalent of the London Underground, the Tube. That stuff has to pass through legislation. They can't just install this software and just go for it. And I think we've let. Sorry, I'm not trying to give too many opinions here. That's not the purpose of this, but I kind of feel like we've let Facebook and Google and people like that kind of suck everybody's faces in without anybody giving permission, if you know what I mean. So, for example, if my brother uploads a photo and tags me in it, unless I kind of go in and make the effort to untag myself and disbar that feature in the future, now Facebook and whoever knows whatever data company they're selling that to know what I look like as well. And whilst that's nothing, it's also something, and feels like a bit of a civil liberties stand by the guys in San Francisco. So I applaud that.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, last one. This is dead useful, simple thing. Send.firefox.com. If you want to send a file to somebody and it's less than a gig, go to send.firefox.com, upload it, send the link. That's it. You're done. If you're logged into Firefox, it's 2.5 gigs. Gets encrypted before they send it and comes down the other side and you decrypt it. Very cool from the guys at Mozilla who are just dead cool.
We've also got MailChimp news, haven't we?
Oh, yeah, please tell me more.
Everyone's angry about MailChimp.
Yeah, they changed the pricing.
Yeah, Vito, do you know what they've done, Vito?
Yes. So basically what they did is up until now, you could have used the automation option on the free plan, but now you got to pay if you want to use autoresponders, basically.
Okay.
That's the gist of it.
Is this one of those situations where they didn't tell anybody and they just removed the feature, or did they say it's coming in 3 months?
No. They did. I was getting the emails about this. Probably people, online are kind of enraged because they didn't read their emails. But I knew this was coming for a few months already, and it just happened to happen today.
Cost of email somehow seems really expensive considering what's involved, but I know it's more complicated than that. The one thing I wanted to mention, I added it in, was our friend in the UK, Adam Lacey, has launched a product. I think it's come out today or the last couple of days. It's called Split Hero, and if you go to Split Hero, he said typing it in, splithero.com. It's an A/B testing tool, and he's had a beta group testing it for quite a long period of time, and he's been encouraging people to sign up for that. And I think probably got all the data from the beta testers that he wanted, and it's now good to go. And it looks really nice. It looks so lovely, So there you go.
I'm a beta tester.
Are you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
I've used it on my site, and
you've used it? Yeah, I wanted to buy it this week actually.
Yeah, it worked perfectly. During the beta test, there was, finding things out about security plugins, trying to block it and stuff like that. But hopefully in a couple of weeks, I'm doing a live stream with Pecha Neri about a third part of our UX series. And she did ask me if maybe we could do it this week, but I said, do you mind if we do it in a couple of weeks? Because I can build up some nice data in probably in Split Hero, just because it's the live stream is going to be about optimizing UX towards the end of the process. So it'd be great to try out Split Hero and see if we can get some data that we can show in the live stream, because it's really, really simple, and you can set up a split test in 20 seconds or something.
So how does that work?
Quick.
You design two different pages within your builder, and then you just assign them?
I think it's up to 5 different pages. So it's quite a 5 different pages, and then you have a page that is your goal page. So I split tested it on my Dickeybird site to try my main service page versus an alternative version of it that was more portfolio based. And it was a stupid test to try because there's quite a serious intent of the user on that page. So I'm going to put it on a blog post that's on our site and put a call to action in one place and then a call to action in another place, and do 2 different versions of the blog post and see how that goes.
But have you published those? You published 2 blog posts and then spin them?
Yeah, you'd have to. Yeah, it'd be tricky with a blog post actually. Yeah, that's a good point. So with a page, it's a bit easier. So I'll have to have a think about how I'd do that with a blog post. I'd probably have to make a non-listed blog post.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
push the
it
stuff to
feels
that.
like its primary purpose maybe kind of marketing
Just landing
funnel type
pages.
stuff. Yeah, that kind of thing, because you're trying to get a
Yeah.
clear winner. Paul, yeah, thanks for that. That's great. Adam, what I would say is Adam Lacey, owner of Split Hero, 54% of podcast listeners are likely to buy from brands they hear advertised on. Anyway,
Do you know any podcasts that he could?
no,
No?
just if only I had
trying to
that
think.
information to hand.
Yeah.
I'm done. I think that's everything. We've run over the hour. I'm sorry, guys, to have lied to you about the extra 8 minutes. So in turn, I'm going to go around. If you've got anything you just want to say about what you're doing this week, just chuck it in. Otherwise, say no and we'll move on. So Paul, anything that's going on this week?
No.
Okay. Vito?
Yes, it's gonna be a really busy week. So tomorrow we're closing early access on the plugin, and actually I've been working on looking into the data that we collected on the initial beta survey, and there's some really interesting bits and pieces there. So we surveyed more than 500 freelancers and agencies just to figure out how they interact within their business with the three main processes that we're trying to tackle, like content, design, and support. But while doing that, we also asked them which is your go-to theme, what is your preferred page builder. So and it was really surprising to see what people replied. So I'm just wrapping this all up into like I call it the WordPress benchmark report, so that hopefully I can release it back to the community and people will just be able to check themselves against 500 other professionals that are doing what they're doing. So you can see like how many websites they've built over the past 3 months, how many websites do they have on their care plans, how do they tackle support, how do they tackle content, and all this kind of stuff. Really interesting.
And finally, Chris, thank you in particular for making the effort to get up, especially after a nice long holiday. Chris, the floor is yours if you wish.
Yeah, you can find me at lifterlms.com. I also have a podcast for course creators called LMS Cast. And in an hour and a half from now, I'm doing a webinar with somebody on how to speed up your WordPress website. So if that's something you're into, you can find a webinars link at the bottom of lifterlms.com.
That's very cool. Thank you so much, guys.
You reminded me.
Go on.
I am doing something. Yeah, you've reminded me. I am covering the Agency Trailblazer coaching call this evening at 8 o'clock UK time.
Is Lee away?
Lee Jackson's having a break for a week. I think he's going away with his family. So if anyone is listening now and is in the Agency Trailblazer paid community, then it's not going to be as good tonight as it normally is.
By the way, and a nice bit of synchronicity. Adam Lacey just happened to be watching this. So the guy who we were talking about just now, Split Hero, and he said, "No, it's just for indexing secondary blog posts." So there you go. We've solved that one. Right. Thank you, guys. As always, I have no idea what happens when I press this button, but I'm going to click end broadcast. And if I don't speak to you three, thank you so much from the bottom of my Lifter LMS cloaked heart. Until next time. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.